Hi everybody, and this is Kendall, Trinity Kendall from the East Coast now, Maryland. We are live at 3 p.m. and we're doing a show called Walking in the Shadows. My guest will be Jonny Ameru. There's a nice little description in the post about his life. He's a former Master Mason, and we're going to be talking about some interesting topics today. I'm just going to have him come on here. We're going to wait for him. Of course, I just get it. Stop calling me. I knew that would happen. Let's see. We're just going to go ahead and wait for Jonny to come on. And as soon as he does, our show tonight, or today, is going to be about the Messiah complex and a few other things. How's everybody doing over there? I'll tell you what, I have some good news. Gonna get the car over here. And going to sell the TV. So whatever you guys have been doing as far as prayers and whatnot has been working. So I thank you for that very much. This is very good news. It's pretty chilly over here, definitely different than Los Angeles. I'm gonna go ahead and let him know. Hold on. There he is! Welcome, Jonny. All right. Boom. There we go. See if we can trim this.
Hello. Let
Jonny.
me remove my security tape.
Okay, so welcome to the show, everybody. It's called Walking in the Shadows. Got some background noise in there, Jonny. So, Jonny, you're a former Master Mason. You want to tell, even though we put a description and everything, you want to tell people about your background?
That's a long story. How about just the Freemasonry part for right now?
Sure.
Otherwise, I'll talk until I'm out of breath.
Yeah.
I was interested in Freemasonry as far back as 1998, 99, around there. But it wasn't until I posted about it on Facebook in 2000. Left 5 years ago. I was there 2 years. So 5 years ago would be 20. So it was like, yeah, I left 5 years ago. I was a member for 2 years. So 7 years ago was like 2012. So maybe I joined in like 2012 or 2013. But I posted about it, and a former teacher I had at my high school was a Master Mason, and he messaged me and asked if I was interested because he had seen my post. And I had a lot of reservations because I'm not super social. So we actually, it's kind of unprecedented, I would imagine. We met for coffee almost weekly for a full year before I filled out the application to join. And so I joined, and I went through the degrees, the first 3 degrees to become a Master Mason. And I was studying the the actual, like within a lodge, there's several positions. I was a senior deacon, And I did really good the one time I had to do my senior deacon thing. It's a lot of
Right.
memorizing and speaking. But I was starting to memorize the more difficult, the most difficult stuff, because that's what I'm always attracted to. And I was meeting with one of the old timers, good guy. Both these guys, good guys, talking about. But my back, like rehearsing for what we do, I was unable to, sit or get off the ground when I was, I just was unable to, my hip was popping loud. I was limping badly, and I couldn't sit, and it was too much, and unfortunately, plus I couldn't afford the dues, and because I held a chair, being a senior deacon, I'm supposed to be an example. My dues were late, and I left. Just
Yeah. Okay. Well, as you guys know, Jonny and I found a lot of commonalities because we both have this particular knowledge on our belts, but it's dangerous knowledge, and so we're basically, it's called walking in the shadows. We're dancing around things. If that makes sense.
That reminds me, I need to read off my list of what I can and can't say. Thank you for saying that.
In other words, we both know individuals that were associated with in person, not the same, maybe not the same people, but we
never know, I guess.
Yeah. So you might hear some static because it is real. It is very dangerous, but it's not dangerous if you know how to deal with it in a specific kind of way. So
right.
Tonight's topic, or today's topic, will be the Messiah complex.
So I can speak freely on that. So we're good.
Right.
Well, it's the Messiah complex. What people think of the Messiah. It's the whole thing. The Messiah complex. Let's start with that. You start.
Me? Okay. Well, I mean, the Messiah complex is something that, I've seen a few individuals. Is that your daughter? Cute. Hi. So the Messiah complex is something that is, to me, it comes across as a psychological thing. I knew an individual who identified as Jesus Christ, and he was always like, he was acting like he is the Christ, but there are so many people that have that kind of.
How is he acting that way?
Well, he was just saying, he was in this group at one point, and he was claiming that he has returned, that he is the Messiah, that he can do these amazing things, and because he can do a handstand, he's considers himself Jesus in many ways. Also, he feels like he looks like him. But this is something that happens to a lot of individuals also.
They do handstands and then they think they're Jesus. Yeah, I hear that a lot.
Yeah, but that always, the Messiah complex kind of freaks me out.
So you just kind of like gave an example of someone who obviously has no credentials as a Messiah figure whatsoever. Like he basically debunked himself by having nothing to say other than what he said. He's Jesus, and he can do a handstand, and he can do all these things, including a handstand and only a handstand. So he basically, is unremarkable and not worth mentioning.
I mean,
but in the context of, when you say it's a psychological thing, I mean, it's about pertaining to God, so it's spiritual. So when you frame it as a psychological thing, I mean, I don't know that guy. He might be interesting to listen to for like 20 seconds. But
Well, no,
the actual Messiah, the actual idea of a Messiah is a messenger from God, anointed messenger of God, a master teacher,
okay.
So he obviously precluded himself. And you can say it's psychological. I mean, maybe he just wanted attention. I don't know. We like to categorize it like, oh, there's something wrong. You say psychology and a complex. It's a negative connotation, but
Yeah.
he doesn't seem to be giving a great name to the idea of an actual Messiah.
Right, and there were a lot of different things that were, came across as red flags to me because of the way he was speaking, the way he was talking to me, and how he was interacting in his environment.
He
It was a
obviously
very
sounds like a nitwit. No
I
offense
don't
to
know.
him.
I'm not gonna judge him. It's just that there are many different kind of what I know is with people that claim that they're Christ, like legitimately claim that they are Jesus Christ, reincarnated or whatnot. They always seem to have some sort of mental issue, or they're just, I don't know.
No, you're judging. I said he's a nitwit. That's what I said. I said when you say that, you're making it. But we are. There's a thin line between the. I came up with a saying long ago. It's not that I have a God complex. It's that I know God is complex.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, but there is psychology at play. I mean, the Messiah would have certain gifts and abilities, but he wouldn't come, Jesus wouldn't show up and have no credentials other than a handstand or, and he probably wouldn't say that he's Jesus because he would know that people would be like, it's Yeshua. No, it's Issa, and he was a Buddhist, and they'd have all these expectations of going up and spinning in the sky with dead people, and they have all kinds of false expectations of what the Messiah is. So,
Well, I think Jesus existed as a spiritual teacher, just like many other spiritual teachers that have been here. And I believe that he had a lot of knowledge to share, but I think that that knowledge got corrupted along the way, and with the current Bibles that we have and other texts, it has been adjusted. It
was totally corrupted from
right.
the beginning. I mean, when you speak in riddles and metaphors, as Jesus did in the Bible, like the example, my favorite example, which shows that the churches are inherently, all of them, every single one, are inherently misleading the people, and I'm not sure why, but I have a friend who's a minister, and I used to meet with her on a regular basis, and she's remarkable for two reasons in my memory. One is that she said that I had a window in my mind into the mind of God, and the second is that she said that turn the other cheek. It's used as a reason why people who are Christians allow themselves to be beaten down and, just, mocked and just, become weakened and allow themselves to be, invaded by other peoples because, oh, it's the good Christianly thing to do. But what turn the other cheek actually means is if someone backhands you, with their right hand, they backhand you or bitch slap you, that's going to hit you on your right cheek. This is what it means. It's going to hit you on your right cheek. So you turn the other cheek and you make them hit you properly. You make them fight you as an equal.
Huh. Oh, I didn't know that.
Of course you didn't. Nobody does, even though I say it. I've recorded it and I've posted it and people just go, whatever, But that's what it means. It means to stand up for yourself, You know, don't let people tell you you're wrong when you're right. Don't let people discredit you when you're being honest. You know, maintain your credibility. And if you're invaded, then you fight back. If you're attacked, then you fight back. You know, or in like the samurai, the way of the samurai, they have what's called the whole fist and the half fist. The half fist is you hit someone, you know, there's an attacker, you hit them, and then, you know, enough that you can escape. That's called the half fist. The whole fist is when you have to like end them because they're not going to stop trying to harm you. So that's why Jesus said anyone without a sword should sell his cloak and buy one, because there are times when you cannot turn the other cheek and you must fight. You understand the connection?
Yeah.
Do you
of course.
understand?
I mean, to a certain extent, I think I understand turning the other cheek. But I was just thinking about David Icke and how a long time ago when he's a researcher and he's written many books, and he it's sort of controversial, but he went on and he explained how we're all sons of God, but that people thought that he had like this Messiah complex, and that he was putting out the idea out there that he was the son of God, but he meant that we're all sons of God.
Yeah, it's a very Luciferian concept.
We're all from the same source, which collectively makes us all one, because we come from that source of singularity, and there's the illusion of separation.
The singularity was so long ago, it predates the Big Bang or Ensof explosion of light, which created our solar system and universe. So singularity almost becomes irrelevant. What David Icke was saying was a very new age. Like, they know that the Messiah was going to return. I don't know if you remember Max Spears, but he died vomiting black goo. He was a big deal, and after he died, he was a big deal, and they said ufology, but really he dealt with the astral realms. And people were sending me this because they thought of me as a ufologist. So a bunch of people are sending me these links, and finally I'm like, fine. I talk about UFOs a lot, so I'll take a look. And I watched one video, and it was like in Denmark, and he said that rituals were done to have, Thoth, the Messiah, return. And there's like 42 other names for Thoth. And to have him return between 1973 and 1979. And he was, highly connected and highly knowledgeable, which is why I would guess that he's, sad to think that he's dead, but he made some powerful enemies and didn't have enough allies. But also that the female counterpart was supposed to reincarnate in the 80s. And this is high level knowledge. I mean, we're talking about, there is knowledge that's actually passed down.
Well, reincarnation, reincarnation is real.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, right. Well, we'll get into past lives at some point, because I remember my past life, not all of them, but some of them and parts of it. And Jonny does too. Many others have. This is why we know that there's not just one life. But also, it comes from years of understanding. By the way, but you mentioned black goo.
Black goo. Yeah, he died vomiting black goo.
You mentioned black goo being thrown up, and if that's the case, that means that it was blood in the vomit. So something must have happened where he got very sick, because if you're throwing up black, it's blood. That's what it is.
like I remember when we talked about what we were going to do for videos, and I said one of my responsibilities as far as astral travel was to remind people of the dangers of it, you know? So we can, when we talk about astral travel, we can come back to this because the etheric body, the subtle body does influence the physical body. But yeah, I do say I'm the reincarnation of Thoth. I was this and I was that. I say, what's your credentials? You know? And they never, you know, they usually say they'll get back to me, and they never do. But, you know, it's true, it's true.
What was that? Something just flew off the table. I'm not even joking you. Something just flew off the table. That just happened right now. I didn't do anything. What the heck?
It wasn't me.
No, I know. It wasn't me. It was over there. It just flew off the table. What the heck just happened? I don't know. Okay, that was just weird. That's weird. Weird. My auto company is trying to contact me, and they're trying to ship my car over here. So just hang 1 second.
Yeah,
I have to. 1 second. Hey everybody, we were just experiencing technical difficulties. Sorry about that. And we're gonna get Jonny back on. I don't know what the heck is going on. They're just hammering like crazy outside, and the auto ship guy was calling me to ship my car and everything. It was just like a whole cacophony of things. But nonetheless, we're back again. We're gonna continue to talk about this subject. We'll just go ahead and wait for. Let me let him know I'm on. Okay. Okay, Jonny. Here. There. Why is this so difficult? Okay, sorry guys about the interruption.
Remove the security tape.
Okay. Alright, so we were interrupted. We were talking about the Messiah complex, astral projection, and
Nope, that's just Messiah. Or Jesus, as they say.
Okay,
I know.
Talking about the Messiah.
You want to focus on the it's like the guy who did the headstand. Do you have any other examples? That's actually interesting. So there's the guy who did the headstand and said he's the Messiah. And what else? Give me some more examples.
Right. So there are people who I don't know who they are, but there are individuals who have, you know, taken the time. Do you hear that?
Of course.
Okay. They have taken the time to. I don't even know what I'm saying. Hold on. They were at they're people that were in positions in their own. They have their own cults and things like that, and they're professing to be some Messiah, and they have some kind of Messiah complex that they're, you know. Do
you have any examples?
Well, there are about like 5 individuals who think that they're Jesus Christ, and I don't remember who they are, but they were you know, it was a documentary or something like that.
There's actually not that many.
No, it's not that many, but I'm sure like
You
this
know?
is something that happens to people when they get very overtly spiritual and they start getting really into feeling a part of Christ, that they think that they are the reincarnated version of Christ.
So like the guy who did the headstand was so excited that he felt he was a part of Christ?
Well, it went
I
from
don't
him.
know.
He was saying that he was Jesus and that he is actually on a ship.
No, he didn't mention that last time.
Right, I didn't finish explaining that. He explained that he was on a ship and that he was explaining how he was just gonna blow the cabal up and everything like that, and that he has all this money. He was saying, we have all the money. I have all the money. I hacked the system. And I was saying, how'd you do that? He said, I already own it. It's already mine, or something like that. And that didn't make any sense to me. So
but he could do a headstand too.
Yes, he was very good at yoga. He was very good at yoga. He's ripped.
Not just headstands, he did yoga too.
Right, he's absolutely ripped. So he did like handstands in the water, but like on the shoreline. You know what I mean? So he
no
would have
idea what you're talking about. This is a very different guy than the first one you described.
No, he was doing handstands.
Do you have videos of this guy?
Huh?
Do you have like videos or like where the conversation is? How do you know he was doing headstands in the water?
He has them on his Facebook profile picture. He said, "Look, I'm becoming more and more of a Christ. I'm becoming more and more Christ-like. I'm getting my powers back."
So he believes in the Christ consciousness, but he's not actually professing to be the Messiah.
No, he is professing to be. He said he's Jesus. He is.
You just said that he was. You just said that he was increasing in his Christness, which is different than saying he's the Messiah. So
no, you have to understand.
He
said that too. Yeah. Okay. That's good. So I don't need to explain that.
Right. So he's a great example, you know.
Yeah, right. He realized that he was Jesus Christ. That's what he
So
thinks.
did he have all the money?
No. He's completely homeless.
All right. So he was a liar. So he's disqualified.
Well,
I don't know how this is complicated, you know. I don't understand why we're focusing on this.
Well, because the whole idea is that there's no such thing as Jesus Christ returning to. There's no such thing as somebody professing to be Jesus. It just doesn't. It's not going to happen. I don't know.
I'm both. You know.
Well, I mean that's fine and all, but
is it?
The thing is,
you just say that's fine and all, like it's no big thing. You know.
I mean.
So you're saying that he has a Christ complex, and you know, I don't know. We disconnect, and then you know he sounds much fancier, and you know he's obviously now a liar and a charlatan because he's misled you and lied to you. You know, so he's a liar. So whether or not he has a Christ complex or he's just a pathological liar, he's not. You know, like let's use a better example. How about David Koresh?
Well, okay, I need to explain because it's a complicated situation. Oh my gosh, the hammering is driving me nuts. But I
don't mind it. It's fine.
So I'm not going to say who this gentleman's. I'm not going to say who he is. But
then let's not talk about him because then I can't even verify that. You know, I can't even see him doing yoga in the water, increasing his Christ consciousness. Because he's already Christ. He's already Christ, but he's doing yoga to do more Christ consciousness, to become more like himself. He's doing yoga in the water. He not only does headstands, but he does them in the water to increase his Christness because he's Christ.
We're just talking
And
about
he
the
has all the
concept
money in the world.
of people having the Messiah complex. This is an
We're talking
individual.
that guy's a liar. He's already been proven a liar, so he's debunked. Like, what did he teach? Did he teach anything? Did he have any credentials?
No.
Or I mean, he's obviously a fool and a liar. So I don't know why we're talking about him. Like, there's David Koresh is a good example. They called him the sinful Messiah because he said in one sermon that he was a sinful Messiah, and the media wanted to demonize him because they like to make it about ruining people, because the world is run by the father of lies. So anyone who is holy, they are going to try to destroy and discredit, That's why they seized upon David Koresh. Like, why'd they even bother with him? You know what I mean? Because why? Do you know much about it? Because they ended up burning his family, 57 women and children alive.
No, not at all.
That's how serious this topic is. So people doing handstands in the water doesn't impress me. David Koresh dedicated his life to a church.
No, but what I was saying was
to a church which followed the tenets of Revelations and the teachings of Revelations literally. And it cost him his life. He dedicated his life to it. He wasn't a lying show-off. Okay?
Right.
Him and his disciples, women and children, were burned alive over it. You understand?
But what year did this happen?
It's like 1993, 1994. They called in Green Berets to kill him and his family. But he left he did succeed in writing his final interpretation of Revelations, which some of the influence came from a female minister who predated him. So what he said was he was the final prophet before the Messiah returned.
That's interesting.
It is because, you don't know much about it, but if you read, not too many people even read what he wrote. I mean, the government burned 57 women and children alive over this, and people don't have enough respect for their faith and the fact that they gave their life for what they believe in to even read what he wrote about Revelations. And they don't know the history of the church either. I mean, he was fulfilling a prophecy of his church that was 100 years old. And there were a lot of good people involved that died,
I'm sure there was.
To fulfill that.
I think we have a bit of a misunderstanding here. What I was talking about the Messiah complex, I was referring to my knowledge of it is that most people who tend to profess that they're Jesus are charlatans and they're not actually Jesus. That's what I was saying.
You also said that Jesus wasn't going to come back, but you seem to have some relation, some affinity for the Catholic Church.
Well, so I don't have an affinity for it.
What I mean? Some respect for it. You seem to respect religion. I mean, when we spoke before, you didn't mention that you didn't believe in Christ. This is news to me, so I'm just surprised.
It's not that I don't believe in him. I do believe. I believe that he existed as a spiritual master, but I think that it's an extraordinary claim for anybody to say that they are him reincarnated. It's just an extraordinary claim, which requires extraordinary proof.
Right. And that's why I asked if the guy had any proof, and you just told me about all the lies he told. And I said, well, let's talk about people who actually, made efforts. And that's why I mentioned David Koresh. But the Messiah would have actual credentials. It wouldn't be a show-off lying about having all the money in the world. That's so beneath me that it's not even funny when I know that people have given their lives, for their faith. It's a mockery of the concept of a Messiah, which you say existed. You say the Messiah existed, but you don't think the Messiah is going to come back. Why? Why do
Well, I
you
don't
think
think he
that?
was the Messiah. I think there are
You
many
said that
individuals.
Jesus was a master. Would you say he was a spiritual master?
Yeah, just like
Right.
Buddha and Krishna and
What did Krishna say?
think I mean,
Do you know anything? Do you know anything Krishna said?
well, Krishna
I'm just
was
wondering if you know what he said. Do you know anything he said?
I can't think of anything off the top of my head.
Do you know anything Buddha said?
I'd have to look at it again.
Do you know
because
anything that Jesus said?
Yeah.
What did Jesus say?
Well, I mean, you tell me. I mean, he said things
I
like,
can tell you plenty, obviously. So I'm asking you
I know
because
you
you're saying they're all the same, but you don't know what they said. So
well, I mean,
you're basically saying that you don't know, but you're guessing. And I'm saying
well, I
I'm
mean,
talking about credentials and the truth. And you said great claims require great truth, and then you say that they're all the same, and then you can't give an example of how they're the same.
No, that's not what I'm saying.
That's what you said, though.
No, the person who claims that they're Jesus in the future reincarnated has to provide extraordinary proof. The other people in the past mostly got all the information from Hermetism and philosophy, and they know the truth. And they're trying to teach the truth to many individuals, many different cultures in different countries and things like that. Yeah, with Buddha and Krishna.
Buddha's a different line. Buddha's a different line.
Even
from
in Egypt.
Hermes Trismegistus. Egypt has some affiliation.
Yeah.
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 So a Messiah, what does Messiah mean? The word. Do you know?
No. No, you tell me. That's why we brought you on here.
It means master, teacher, or anointed one.
Okay.
So when the Messiah, whatever, people like like I said, my proof that I'm Thoth reincarnated, and I've reincarnated many times, is the magic square which I've made, which is part of what I use to teach Dan Brown about Mary and Jesus, and how Mary wasn't a prostitute. She was actually his favorite disciple, and that they were in a relationship together. And then he went off and, and I taught him about reincarnation. And I taught him for a good 20, 30 minutes back in 1999, 2000 at my mom's house. They worked together at Lincoln Academy Academy in Hampton Falls, New Hampshire. Dan lived in Exeter, New Hampshire, and we lived in Hampton, New Hampshire. My mom was his best friend. She made his website for his first website for his books. When Deception Point came out, I proofread it for him. It was a purple paperback, binded copy. I stayed up all night to proofread it, and gave him my 2 cents on it the next day. And, but when I realized I was Thoth was when I saw that the numbers, it was in one day, I saw the numbers 3 times 9 equals 27 is the numbers for Thoth, who is Hermes Trismegistus. Thoth Hermes is another pronunciation, so they're obviously saying it's reincarnation. The same soul reincarnating. So 3 times 9 equals 27. And my birthday was 9/27, which is also the first day of the Thoth calendar in Royal Egyptian astrology. And Thoth discovered the leap year by beating a baboon in a game of chess. And my daughter was the first leap year baby born in the millennium in New Hampshire on leap year. And we were on the front page of the newspapers and and on the news. That's how big a deal it was that she was born on the leap year. So That was God's way of saying, you know, I'm going to give you these for the number of people. I'm going to give you the numbers, you know. So I have the numbers, and you created the leap year. So here, have your daughter born on the leap year and put her on TV for you. And then when you're older, you'll find that 3 times 9 equals 27. And you'll realize you were Thoth after spending, you know, 20 years looking at a book about the tomb of King Tutankhamun. And then I saw the Sator Magic Square, which is currently on Wikipedia and anywhere, the best magic square that it exists. And that's because they don't know about mine yet or what I've done with it. So
Okay.
I
Well,
saw the Sator Magic Square, and I said, I can do better than that. And I sat down with my notebook, and in under 11 seconds, I made the Thoth Magic Square, which has 3 words 4 times: Thoth, heart, and Tao, which to me means life is the way of love and magic, because Thoth is the god of magic, at least in Egypt way of thinking, or Merlin is more related in the Hermes Trismegistus fashion. And heart is love, you know, the driving force for everything that's created and done on behalf of noble causes. And Tao means the way. So in under 11 seconds, I made the best magic square in the world immediately after figuring out that I'm Thoth based on those numbers. And the reason I ended up at that library at all was after 20 years at the church across the street at 127 Winnicott Road in Hampton, New Hampshire, the First Congregational Church. There was a Mormon guy. I don't know why he was there. The Mormons are funny because they know that Thoth was also Quetzalcoatl, you know, the plumed serpent. So it's interesting. But they were arguing. There was one guy arguing, the Mormon guy and another guy were arguing about homosexuality and whether or not gays go to hell. And everyone else was like running for the hills, you know, into the aisle to get out of there as fast as possible. And I was like fascinated at not only the idiocy of the conversation, but also that there was, an actual conversation pertaining to religion taking place in the church, and everyone was running for the doors, you know. So that night I went home and I prayed, and I said, God, I've always known you're real, and I appreciate this whole Christianity thing. I could never pray to Jesus. I tried. I just never could. I just always had to talk to God directly. And I said, I've done all I can. I've learned all I can going to church. I want to look for you outside of Christianity. And I went to church the next week, and when I walked out the front door of the church, to the left, to the northeast, southwest, to the west in the sky was two perfect clouds in the exact shape of the bust or the head and the beard of Tutankhamun and his father Akhenaten. And it was perfect. I mean, it wasn't loose and fluffy. They were perfect. Absolutely perfect. And I was like, that's my sign. And that's what led me to begin studying at all. And that's what led me to the library across the street, the Lane Memorial Library in Hampton. And that's where I read about, that's where I studied. I spent years studying, but that's where I made the Magic Square. And then a year later, I invite Dan down to the cave, which is where I played music. I just recorded the first recording I ever made was a song called Wish. And I had two Sammy Adams, and Dan was upstairs. He was, like I said, he was my mom's best friend. He was over all the time for like 10 or 12 years, from like 1993 to 2005. And I said, "Hey Dan, why don't you come down and hear my new song?" And my mom and Blythe, his Dan's girlfriend at the time, were like, trying to protect him from, because he's, rich and proper, and, I don't
Right.
know, and I'm raw, I'm a very raw person. I'm very real. And they were trying to give him every excuse, but I goaded them. I was like, I saw that they were literally like trying, oh, you don't have to, but they probably helped encourage him, by, acting like, oh, you're too much of a pussy to go downstairs, Dan. Don't do it. So the goddess was helping, So
So you helped
we went.
stand down.
Yeah.
Cool.
So we went downstairs, and it's funny. In one of his talks, he says, he has it on his Facebook page, the Dan Brown page. He talks about the stairs, the circular staircase, and he says, "I thought one of us was gonna die on those stairs." He says that at one point, and the circle stairs, to get from the room upstairs to the room downstairs, you had to go down a spiral staircase, and it's a weird. I mean, it was the cave. We called it the cave. Was a small room, so there wasn't room for a big staircase. So we had to put in a spiral staircase. Not that I had any input in it. The house was built poorly as hell. But we went, he followed me downstairs, and I pushed play on my little boom box, and we listened to the song Wish. And the lyrics are, "I wish you had something to say so that they would not turn away. It's easier to live than to forget. Don't believe me, just ask a vet. So, what's the problem here? Just because you're living your life in fear. They say it's coming and you don't care and you don't mind and it doesn't matter anyway. They say it's coming and you don't fear and you don't care and it doesn't matter anyway. I wish we could turn back time, keep you close at the end of the line. You'd only have to hit rewind to see the front from behind." And then the chorus again. So after I played that song, he was pretty interested, and I don't know, just being in my world, because I was into, there was a reason he was scared to go down there. I mean, I was very into the esoteric, to the point that it was, you could just see it. They could just,
Okay.
you can just sense an energy about somebody. But anyway, so I'm like, oh, check this out. And I'd show you the book right now. I'll show you in another video. I've posted pictures of it before, but it was so I handed him my notebook. I'm like, check this out. And it was the first version of the Magic Square I'd ever made. And I had done the storyboards for a book called The Five-Faced King. And and in it was Thoth and the goddess, and they're side by side on one page. And I, like I said, I told him that Jesus and Mary were in a relationship, that she wasn't a prostitute, and that was just something that the male-dominated religious system had created to keep women in the subservient role, and that he loved her very much. And that's well known in the Bible, because Peter was jealous of her. And when he died, his ghost or spirit, she's, according to the Gospel of Mary, which of course isn't in the Bible because of what it says, that she is the one that he returned to after he was crucified and died. He went to her and he thanked her for being brave because other people would have been too afraid to see him.
Okay.
Yeah. So I taught him about Jesus and Mary, and then he taught, he wrote, he read Holy Blood, Holy Grail, and he got sued by them, and I mean, I got harassed horribly over this. I mean, I got threats when this information about me teaching him went public. I was threatened.
Well, yeah. I
Badly.
can imagine why.
Can't imagine. No, nobody can imagine what I've been through, and that's fine. I don't want them to, because you shouldn't have to know. There are things that you just don't need to know. Horrible, horrible things. But in high school, so like I said, my mom knew him from 1993 onwards. And in 1995, in my yearbook, my nickname was Malachi. And around, Dan told me, I saw him at the fair, my band was playing. I improved, I kept playing, wrote more songs, got a band. And we were at the Stratham Fair, and I saw him, and I was like, "Hey, Dan, how's it going?" And he said, "Good." I'm like, "Oh, my band's playing, we got CDs for sale." And he's like, "I'll sponsor your band." And he had been a musician before he moved back and, got into our lives. He was a musician in Hollywood and, failed, but, he had sponsors, so he knew what a sponsor was in music. They pay for your, it's an investment or sponsorship, whether it's gifting or, and I was like so happy because, I mean, I had helped him. His first 3 books had sold 5,000 copies.
Wow.
Like if this final book didn't do well, he was like gonna be done. And people are like, Angels and Demons, and I'm like, the only reason you know about Angels and Demons is because of DaVinci Code. Like, maybe it's a great book, maybe it's a great movie. That's an opinion thing. But
yeah, I read all of
the
them.
fact is, you didn't read Digital Fortress. Digital Fortress? You didn't read Digital Fortress? You got to read Digital Fortress so you can understand the complete lack of privacy that we have in America and in the world.
Okay. I just
but
read.
It's interesting because in 2000, so he didn't sponsor my band, and I wrote him an 11-page letter on yellow paper, and I gave it to him, and I had my mom give it to him, and it was just, "Thank you so much for sponsoring the band. It means so much to me since I helped you, with these ideas and this knowledge, and it's gonna be really helpful." And he didn't. I saw him again in 2003, actually, where he, we had a conversation, and some of the information, that was personal from our conversation, he put in Inferno, and he used my name, Jonathan, outright in Inferno. But in 2006 or 2007, when he was emailing me back, it was awkward, and I was thinking, there's something not right. So I knew he was writing about me because I'm very intuitive. I'm abstract random, which makes me very intuitive, probably more than most women, I would think, based on what I see sometimes as far as intuition goes. But I wrote him an email where I said, "Thanks for doing the right thing." And I used the name of I signed it, I was like, "Oh, and here's my business, Trice Magistus Massage Therapy." And sure enough, what is his book about? Oh, as above, so below, as above, so below. So I used the Thoth Magic Square to teach him. And then I know he's going to use me. I know he's using me, so I write him an email and I say, thank you for doing the right thing. I have the email.
All the information in those books is just a slither of everything else.
Have you read The Lost Symbol?
Yeah, I read all 3 of them a long time ago.
Do you remember the science that he talks about in The Lost Symbol?
It was like 11 years ago when I read those books.
Yeah, that came out 6 years ago. But
yeah,
it's actually, the science in it is so advanced that it went over everyone's head, sadly. I mean,
when we were talking,
you could read 20 books about science and spirituality and not get as much information as you do in the 2 pages of that book. And it's just sitting there and people don't even know. It's amazing.
When we were talking about the Messiah complex, I wasn't trying to be offensive when I was talking about how, like, you know, it's not that I don't believe in Jesus. I believe that he existed as a person. But when I was talking about the other person who did the handstands on the beach and stuff like that, that was just an example of people that I usually come across that profess that they're Jesus. But also, I don't remember everything Jesus and Krishna and, you know, Buddha and even...
Well, anything technically. You couldn't name anything, to be fair.
Well, no, because that's not my area of expertise.
Right. But
that's
I'm
your
both.
area of expertise.
Yeah, that's right, it is. Because that's who I am. You know? I said I'd return. In 2012, I posted, I said, Quetzalcoatl will not return until 2017. In 2017, I was like, yeah, I'm Quetzalcoatl. I'm Thoth. Here are my credentials. See, you're talking about people that have no credentials. I don't know what's funny about it. I mean, this is a serious topic, right?
Well, no, I mean,
you want to make
really.
light about it. You know, you said extraordinary claims require extraordinary proof. And I just gave you some extraordinary proof, and you went back to talking about, you know, the guy who does handstands. So what do you have to say about my extraordinary proof?
You do handstands.
I do handstands. In my sleep.
What do you mean?
I did backflips.
I do backflips too.
But, no, I was... Never mind. That's okay. I'm sometimes thinking back on my conversations with that person was funny because of the things he was saying to me that didn't make any sense at all. That's why I was laughing.
Oh, well, like, yeah, go on, like, any examples? I mean, I'm interested in examples of, like, what he was... I want to know what he taught. Like, I'm teaching people that circumcision is an abomination. You know, it's not... People think they're doing it because of religion, but the Jews don't do it. And it's an Old Testament concept. But when they do it, the baby often gets herpes. But it's just a little slit. Only in America do people circumcise. They torture the child. It's a blood sacrifice of the child. And it's an evil. And it was started by Kellogg's cereal. The guy who owns Kellogg's cereal made it popular in the United States. And if he had his way, then you would have had a drop of hydrochloric acid put on your clitoris when you were born. So this is the kind of evil that exists that I fight against and I teach people about. You know, this is what I teach. I teach you don't harm the innocent. I teach that you have your sword, you turn the other cheek, but when there's time to use the sword, you use the goddamn sword. You don't let people torture children.
Well,
and anyone with half a brain can look that if it's an Old Testament teaching and the Jews don't do it, that it's not religious. So where'd it come from? It came from Kellogg's. And what do they do with it? You know, they put it in skin cream so women can have, like, really soft skin. You know, why do you think that they're so big on abortion? They sell those body parts. So they started by having mothers torture their sons, you know, and then the father's like, well, it happened, you know, I'm fine, you know, but, you know, to have a primal wound inflicted upon your body, I mean, there's 400 million nerve endings connected to the foreskin, and they tear it off. Like, they crush it and tear it off. They torture children. You know, it's an abomination. It's evil. And it's a practice that needs to end. This is what I teach. I teach to stand up for your women and your children.
Well, that's good. I mean,
so what did this guy
good.
say? I'm just wondering what he said.
This guy was just a goof, you know. He was saying that, you know, he had a ship. It's complicated. It's complicated to explain, but he just.
Well, okay, a ship. You know, it's funny you mention a ship because my UFO experiences are classified and I cannot speak about it, and you know it. So.
Right.
Tell me about his ship. Yeah, tell me.
No. Okay, so it's like this. It's like his other body is on the ship and that he's physically here, but his spirit is on the ship. And he said that, you know, he's got access to all the funds in the world and that he's going to destroy the cabal.
I don't want to hear about the money. You already said that. Tell me about the ship. The spirit's on the ship doing what? What's it doing?
That he's the captain of the ship.
Okay. That's cool. What does it do?
I don't know. It's just a ship that he has. That was what his claim was. So basically his claim was that he is the captain. He is Jesus Christ.
You realize that if he actually had a ship and people knew it, that he wouldn't be allowed to say it. Or if he had like a fleet of ships, he wouldn't be able to say it. They would like, you know, he's a goof. You said he's a goof. I'm just confused.
It's just a simple explanation that some people are a little. It's just a simple explanation that some people are a little, you know.
Yeah, but don't you understand that some people they're designed like misinformation agents? You know, like David Wilcox talks about reptilians, but then says everyone is the son of God while he's fighting these evil. No. Like that's insanity. But you quoted him as an expert because other people do.
No, no, he's saying that we're all.
There was an obvious contradiction. He's saying these evil Yeah, listen, there's an obvious contradiction. These horrible, evil reptilians he's talking about, he loves talking about them. He talks about them all the time. That's what he's famous for. And
I don't support
and then he goes and says that that he's either Jesus or that everyone is Jesus. And then you're talking about a guy who is Jesus, but also is doing handstands to increase his Christness. And his spirit's not here, and he has all this money. Like, you know, there's such a thing as being a misinformation agent. There are people who are paid to lie to make other people look stupid. And I've met many of them. And he's probably an example. Because if people are speaking real truth, then they have to be careful what they say, like us. You know, but nobody's telling this guy to be quiet because he's a liar and everybody knows it.
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
He's always already debunked.
Right.
So, I mean, I don't even see how it's complex. It's simple.
It's complex to explain sometimes. But with David Icke, I never said I supported his information. I only said what people misinterpreted as him having a Messiah complex. Because he was saying that we're all sons of God, meaning we're all come from the same source.
That's crazy because he teaches about evil. He's empowering evil. He does. He teaches about how evil the reptilians are. I don't know. Maybe you don't know maybe you don't know his work. I've studied everyone. You can't name an expert that I haven't studied. So when I say he talks about evil and you say he doesn't, I'm right and you're wrong, and that's a fact. And you can verify it by watching any one of his videos. So for him to say that he is a reptilian or that everyone is, you know, that there's all these evil reptilians, even if it's just in bloodlines, you know, but then he says that either he's the son of God or everyone's the son of God. Okay, first of all, you're a woman, so you should obviously be like, what about the daughters of God? You know, but people don't even like say that. I don't understand it.
But when you talk, in the old days, when you say man, it refers to human. That's why it's, you know, man does this, man does that.
But nobody knows what human means. Even though I keep teaching people what the word human means, nobody knows what it means because they don't listen. Because people listen to whoever, you're talking about David Icke because people talk about David Icke, even though I just proved that he contradicts himself, which means he's invalidated. And you're talking about a foolish guy, right? But what does human mean? Do you know?
I think
see if anyone in the comments knows. Let's see.
I think it's really important for me to finish explaining how I got into David Icke and what I think about him before you
Well, anyway, real quick, I'll tell you what human is, then you can continue. So a human is someone who understands the hue is like the degree, like there's spectrums, right? Like the light goes into the prism and it comes out as a rainbow. That's the visible spectrum of light. That's the hue. And that pertains to many things. So a human, a true human, understands and lives in that full spectrum. Come on, Daddy. Like understands that there is the evil that David Icke talks about. And whether or not those people were ever associated, you say they all come from the same source, but there's something and there's nothing. There's duality. Duality exists. Without nothing, you can't have something. So not everything, to say that everything comes from something is just relativizing everything.
But that's not what I meant.
Well, you said that there's no need for Christ because we all come from a singularity and a oneness. And I just said that there's duality, so it's not oneness, and you agreed. So you disagreed with yourself.
No.
So, yeah, technically.
No, not at all.
Okay.
No.
Explain if you want.
We're collectively a part of the same source. And there is duality. Where we come from, right, is this nothingness, because something comes out of nothing.
That goes against the laws of physics, technically, which is funny because they say that matter can neither be created nor destroyed. It can only change form, like from a liquid to a solid to a gas. And the Big Bang was an example of that. Everybody was all excited that there was no God because there was the Big Bang. So that explained everything. And then somebody with half a brain said, what about before the Big Bang? And he was like, oh my God, I didn't think of that because I'm not that smart. And then I actually saw him try to make a theory where there didn't need to be any, he tried to explain that, but it was just terrible. It was embarrassing. I felt bad for him.
Well, we came from darkness. We came from darkness. I mean, it has a term. That's the only way I think of it anyway, is that it starts with, it's kind of inexplicable, really. I mean, we came from darkness.
Well, there's different kinds of darkness. What people don't understand, they call darkness. When they can't see, they call it darkness.
There's
dark, I can't see.
There's dimensionalities and things like that. There's dimensional concepts. But I mean, from my point of view, I didn't see what happened where I came from. I've only seen a certain point in time, but I think it's hard to conceptualize exactly where all of us came from. You have to kind of use your imagination. And it's hard. It's unfortunately, okay. I'm using terms in the physical way, right? But we didn't even have speech or words yet, or even thought. So when at first from darkness, there must have been some, kind of thought all of a sudden, and then it exploded out and created itself.
No.
I don't believe that there is the God of the Bible kind of situation.
There was nothing that exploded out. Well, why not? I mean, you're talking about two different things. I mean, the existence of human beings and the concept of God that we have, or names of God that we have right here. Or other. Okay, I'll be right here. is very different. You know, it's like very egotistical for humans to think that they can even comprehend of God unless they've spent their life dedicated to seeking God. Because this, like this group is called Pleiadians, right? Which implies life in the Pleiades, which I totally believe in because they showed up. And I took pictures of them, a bunch of them. If you look at my profile picture, that's Mary. She showed up on my birthday. My band's name was Mary's Ghost. So extraordinary claims, extraordinary proof. But anyway, so the Pleiades, for example, you know, they might have a name of God. People on Mars
Trinity.
may not have. All these different places can have a name for God, right?
Trinity is what Myra on the High Council had told me when I was taken onto the ship, if that really happened anyway. And that was my experience of it. Right. Yeah. She was teaching me about a concept of Trinity and then something, the concept of Trinity. And she explained that it's like the Father, the Son, the Holy Spirit, that we are all one together. Because the illusion of separateness. Right.
Right. So Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. So what is the Holy Spirit?
Right. Well,
my profile picture, the goddess. How can there be no mother? Why are people always trying to avoid the goddess? It was obvious. Father, Son, Holy Ghost. Holy Ghost. Holy Ghost, Mary, personification of the goddess. 9:23:17 was the revelations, the alignment of the Virgin and Scorpio on 9:23:17. On 9:25 to 9:26, something happened. You can read my post if you want. I shouldn't talk about it. 9:27, my friend in my profile picture was up above my house. I took a picture of her. There's proof. So my band name from 2009, 2007 or 2009, maybe 2006 is Mary's Ghost. I've been looking for her a long time. I taught about her. I found her.
But the idea
that's, you say Trinity, but I just wanted to make that point about the goddess, you know, about the divine feminine, because I see so much negative feminine, you know, women screaming for abortion, you know, in the media, encouraging it because it's big money. It's $1 trillion business. You know, like Chelsea Clinton says, you know how much it would hurt the economy to get rid of abortion? Meanwhile, because it's like a $5 trillion industry, but at the same time, our birth rates in the United States are the lowest they've been in 30 years, and we're unable to maintain our population because of their greed. So the divine feminine needs to wake up and stop being slaves to the darkness. Period.
Okay.
Or we're gonna go extinct. And I don't care. I'm here to give you guys. I'm here to teach you guys. You know, I'm the Messiah. Okay. I'm not Jesus. I'm the Messiah. I'm the master teacher. I'm anointed, and I'm teaching you the truth. You can verify everything that I'm saying.
Well, I think it's good to identify what the definition of Messiah is, and you did. And I think that when most people hear about the Messiah complex, they think about Jesus, they think about Jesus Christ. So that's just one of those things. But I also think it's important that, I mean, I've mentioned a few things, and then you kind of like assume or you're presumptuous that I believe in certain aspects of things that you didn't let me explain, like, you know. I think it's important to allow me to explain myself before you
respond.
Before you assume.
Well, I would be nice. I agree. I'd appreciate it if when I say something that you respond to what I say, instead of changing the subject to a guy doing headstands. So now we have an agreement. I'll listen better, and when I say something, you'll respond to what I said, like a conversation, like we're having a conversation.
Well, the thing is that it hasn't really been a conversation.
Let's have one now.
Okay.
Continue, Pleiades. Yeah. You're on the ship with Myra. I'm listening. You're on the ship with Myra. She teaches you about Trinity.
That's all I had to say. I'm just saying.
Well, then I
You're
didn't
like,
cut you off. Don't act like I cut you off if you were done. What the heck?
no, you're talking about. No, it's because I didn't get to say what I wanted to say before when you were talking about, like, you're like, it's egotistical to believe that you understand what God is, or you mentioned that it's egotistical to think that you are something. Could you say that again?
There are people like, when you mentioned that clown who you called a goof and does the handstands, who I said is probably a misinformation agent designed to discredit people or make, outrageous claims and be an idiot. I mentioned David Koresh, who had dedicated his life and the 57 women and children who the government burned alive in that compound, and their dedication and devotion to their belief. So there are people who spend their entire lives studying God, and then there are people who hear one concept of, oh, we all come from source, and then they lose all reverence. And that's, how do you think that, like I said about the abortion and the fact that we're mutilating our sons, how did we get to that point? It's because people started saying stupid things like, everything is nothing and nothing is everything, and the oneness, and just being relativist, to the point that nothing matters. There's even, you said earlier, extraordinary claims require extraordinary proof, and
Sometimes.
I've given you extraordinary proof and you've ignored it studiously.
Well, I'm not asking you for proof. I'm telling you. No, listen, I'm telling you that I was saying extraordinary claims require extraordinary proof from that guy I talked to, not you.
But I'm just telling you straight up who I am and what I've taught.
Right.
People like the word Jesus. It's not my bag of chips. I'll stick with the incarnations that I'm comfortable with. I taught the world about Jesus and Mary. I'm the main character in the Lost Symbol. I'm Jonathan and Inferno. My
That's
birth
amazing.
date, I don't know. It's miraculous. The odds are astronomical. It's a one-of-a-kind situation in the history of the world. And you mentioned that guy in the ship, and you know that I can't discuss UFOs because my situation with UFOs is classified. So it kind of felt like a trap, because first you said the guy just did handstands. Then he was doing handstands in the water, and there were ships, and, it was like a bigger story. And I just felt like, you were trying to get ahead of me to like make me look silly, to make me sound like him.
I do that? No, those are things that
a lot of people do that. They try.
No, that's silly. I have no desire to do that.
But like, let's say that when you say you lived 1,000,000 years ago and you died, and God was like, you know what, you're really freaking cool. I like you. And I'm going to give you a world. And you got to create the world and sprinkle the life onto it and tend it. And they loved you for it. And then they forgot, they started to forget about you. And meanwhile, you're tending to this entire world,
Okay.
Because people are like the oneness, but the actual God that is tending to the earth and the goddess that are tending to the earth are being negated, even by saying Father, Son, and Holy Ghost. It's negating the divine feminine, which as I've said and proven, is detrimental to our population, which is dwindling, and we're mutilating our sons for no reason other than a rich man said so. I mean, it's a mockery of the divine.
What I believe, or actually understand, is that we are the manifested expression of what would be God. That's what I understand.
We are the manifested expression of what would be God.
We're the manifested expression of the singularity of the source of all, because I look at it as we're a part of everything. I mean, energy, I don't think there's any separateness. There's an illusion of separateness. For example, this couch that I'm sitting on is still a part of me, or all of us. It's just that it's a specific understanding that, you know, even when if you're astral projecting, it's not an actual physical body that you're projecting. It's a dimensional aspect, or dimensional
But what
part
is
of
a
yourself.
dimension?
It's a plane, right?
Right. So in that plane, are you physical?
I mean,
So
I think it's a different version of being a finer aspect of, like, a finer. It's still physical, but
not by the carbon-based life that we think of.
Right, not by a carbon base. It's completely different. It's a finer. It's actually even clearer, because I think of it like a Russian doll concept, where there's a person within a person within a person within a person. It's a doll within a doll within a doll. And it's this Russian doll concept that I tend to think about, that, you know, we have this astral body that's connected to the etheric body, which is connected to the mental body. And these are all dimensional planes that operate like onion layers that are connected to the all, or connected to us. That we are these things. It's just a very weird concept sometimes.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
You know? Like, think in terms of octaves in music. Like, the number 777 is a big deal.
Yes,
and,
exactly.
You know, there's 7 notes in the musical scale. So, do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. So the do and the do, that's actually, it's an octave. It's 8 apart. So there's, you know, our red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet is the rainbow. But then what's below and above is ultraviolet and infrared. So you're an element of your body, or an aspect of your etheric body. I like the word ether. My dad told me after it was too late, when I was like 23, he said 3 things that were interesting to me. He said, don't go too far into the ether. But it was already way too late for that. He said, the ether, the ether, the etheric, yeah, the spiritual non-physicalness of our existence. He said you can get an education at the library, then better education at the library than you can at college. And
so
that's it.
Let me just ask you a question.
The third thing wasn't important.
Well, my important question is, do you believe that there is a source that is separate from us, that created us?
Absolutely.
Okay.
When I
don't.
Oh, well, I'll tell you why I do. Because when I asked God before teaching the world about Jesus and having Mary show up at my house on my birthday, 4 days after the Revelations alignment on 9/23/17, as soon as I went to the library, I went into darkness. I went into a dark place. Like, God was like, fine. And basically it was like I entered the world of the goddess, the world of life and death, you know? And that's, you know, Jesus said, I'm in this world, but not, or he said, be in the world, but not of it. You know, reject it because it's false, and, you know, the father of lies and all that, you know.
But where did
But
the
but
if
I but
God
I but
created
it
us,
was
where did God
so
come
dark and it was so lonely that I
from?
died in 2002. It led to my death. That, and there was a medication for nerve pain called gabapentin, which had some bad side effects. So I died in 2002. And I had been studying a lot of things before then, but I don't know. I mean, I heard the flat line. I felt the woman's hand on my back as I was choking up these pills. They gave me the chalk, and at one point, I was choking up, and there was one that was stuck in my, in my windpipe, and I kept, they were like, cough, cough it up, puke it up, keep trying. But I was going, and each time I could feel it going less and less up, like I was unable, like I was getting weaker and weaker. And then I heard the flat line.
And you died, and you went to this other realm. You went to the source.
I saw a black wall with orange sparkles. I don't know what happened. There was a lot of consternation and people were really upset. Somebody thought that I was replaced by a spirit when that happened. And Dan, being the bastard that he is, said the spirit was, a very, very powerful negative spirit, essentially, and the lost symbol that I let that into my body. Another loved one said that an alien took over, and I was like, what the hell? What, So I don't know what happened when I died, but whatever it was caused a lot of confusion for a lot of people. My medical records are basically sealed and I can't access them. So I don't know what happened. But when I woke up, there was a guy sitting next to me, and he asked me a question, and it's personal, and I said, I didn't try to die. I'm going to college. And I went back into my coma. So I was at college, or I was learning. I was somewhere. I don't know where I was. But afterwards, my psychic abilities, whatever, ESP, whatever, everything was so horribly enhanced that, like when we talked about astral travel the other day, and today I said part of my responsibility is to warn people against it, because the darkness is enticing. It does make people feel special, but it can completely it can turn people evil, it can ruin lives, and it's not all that in a bag of chips. It's really horrible. So these topics are very serious to me because I'm deeply involved in a lot of these things, which other people think of as like, oh, ESP, telepathy, astral travel. It's like they don't understand how real these things are, like how completely real it is, and what a burden knowledge can be, and gifts. The good Lord giveth and the good Lord taketh away, opens one door, closes another,
Right, I know. So the person that was sitting there was a being or a person that you didn't know, or who was it when you woke up?
I never found out. Like I said, the records are sealed and I can't access them, and I don't know. It looked like a dude, but I don't know. Well, that enters classified territory.
Okay, let's ask the tautological question. Where did the source that created us come from? Where did it come from? Because its response is, it just always is. But where it had to have come from something. So if God created us, who created God? And even before that, who created that thing that created God? You know what I mean? It's like, you know, it's almost like a computer. It's a you know, the most powerful source of all things is love. That's true. Love is a part of the God source that is
God is a
itself.
badass. God is a complete badass. The goddess is a badass. I just want to
Well,
be
I mean,
wicked clear that she's pissed. She's wicked pissed. She's
that's just, yeah,
incredibly
but
pissed.
that's just, I don't think that the
It doesn't
goddess.
matter. I'm just telling you. I mean,
Okay.
people are slaughtering babies by the thousands. Do you think the goddess is happy about that? I mean,
I don't think
it's
it.
common sense
I think,
that the mother of the world would be unhappy that they're torturing newborns and slaughtering children in the womb by the millions. That's just
you
common
think,
sense, you know.
okay, but when there
It's common
are,
sense.
right, but when there are lions
Right.
that are when there are lions that are killing, okay, for their prey, and they're attacking, you know, they're ripping guts everywhere while the animal is alive. Do you think God cares about that? No, that's just not nature. Human nature is human
Of course
nature,
I care. Of
and
course God cares about that. God cares about the animals and understands. Yeah.
right, but that's brutal.
Humans have been irresponsible in how they. I mean, I just explained how mothers torture their
Yeah,
own sons. So,
yeah.
you know, from a human perspective, if that's not repulsive to you, then you can't understand how repulsive it is to the goddess, and you can't understand nature.
I don't. I don't think that. I don't think that.
Nature. You're talking about animals that kill to eat by nature of like how they were designed, by nature of the food chain. You know,
Right.
it's part of the cycle of life, you
But I
know?
think the terms good and evil are very subjective, and that is what we as humans put a
Yes,
label on it.
you as
Yeah.
humans have completely ruined these concepts and have become relativists. And the goddess is very, very pissed off at all of you for not understanding that killing the unborn who can feel in the womb and torturing your sons is an abomination against God. It's an insult, and it's contrary to everything that is good. There is nothing good about it. There's nothing sacred about it. There is such a thing as the sacred and the profane. And what people have done in the name of God and the goddess is a complete abomination.
But that's not
That's a
okay. So, but
fact.
humans were subjected to the other humans who controlled them. I mean, you know, the Illuminati. I mean, not let's not say the Illuminati, but let's say the cabal. You know, are also responsible for being a part of that horrible, you know, horrible tragedies. I mean, look, I see a serial killer. If a serial killer goes after somebody and kills them, I think, okay, well, you know, that that is part of that person's psychology, and it's not. They created themselves to be that way. I mean, that's how I think of it. That evil and good are subjective. Although
So
I would never.
you think that they create themselves? That's
I think
really
the
interesting.
experience.
See, that takes away. That's another huge problem society has
Yeah.
is it doesn't understand its effect on each other, like the way people are cruel to each other, you know, the way that they try to
Yeah.
discredit truth and ignore it. You know, nothing is sacred to people, and it's really horrible. Like
But
you are creating me just as I'm creating you. And when millions of people read those books that Dan wrote about me, and based on information that I gave them, you're all directing energy and forming opinions about aspects of me which he has monetized and sold.
why would it be
Do you
about you?
understand? Well, if you were listening, I told you that my high school nickname was Malachi. He used
Well, yeah.
elements of my, well, that's the name of the villain and the alter ego of the villain in The Lost Symbol. I thought you read the book. You saw
Yeah,
how
but
Malachi was treated and how he was portrayed. But the backstory of
long.
why he went to a foreign country, why I went to a foreign country, you know, he made it the opposite. I didn't go there because I was rich and affluent. I went there because I was treated so badly that I couldn't live here anymore. People were so cruel. So people, yeah, there's a lot in that book that is directly taken from my life. Not just my name, not just my tattoos, not, you know, a lot of things from that book are about me, my age. When the book came out, it came out on the date where the numbers equaled 33. I was 33 when he finished the book, 34. You know, the character's exact age as me. You know, Dan's 5'10". I'm 6 foot. He makes us both 2 inches taller. So, and he says openly that he writes about people he knows. You know, back in 1998, he said that in an interview before he was anybody, and he was nobody before I taught him. And that's just, I mean, he was fancy, you know. He was,
let me tell you something.
He was privileged.
Important.
That's, you know, and as far as like nature, you talk about how can God let animals rip other animals apart? I don't know.
It doesn't.
Okay, then why did all of you sit back when I had proven that Dan had used me? Why did nobody help me? Why did nobody help me find a lawyer? Why did nobody stand up for me? Why humans are worse than animals? Guys, people think they're like, how can you let them rip apart that poor animal? Well, how did you let them demonize me and get rich off of me and stand back and do nothing? Like, how are you guys any better than animals? You know?
Maybe it was a lesson. Maybe it was a lesson that you had to teach yourself. I mean, maybe
the lesson I'm supposed to teach you is the power that you have. You know, you say you're one with the Creator, but you act like you don't have any power.
Oh, no, we have power for sure.
Right. So what do you do with it? What do you do with it? When people are slaughtering unborn children that can feel, and they're torturing newborn babies, what do? You do nothing.
Oh, I understand.
You do nothing. Well, none of you. What do you use your power to do? You can't.
We can't.
I can. I do it all the time. I walk the walk. You say we're co-creators. I'm creating. And if you guys aren't going to stand with me and you're not going to oppose evil and you want to be relativists, then that's your choice. But you have to decide if you have power. You just said you have no power. Who said you have no power? I'm telling you, you have power. I have power.
I never said that.
You just said you can't do anything. You just said you couldn't do anything. Who said that? Who taught you that you're a slave? Not me. God didn't teach you that. You can say the cabal taught you that. You can say the media taught you that. I didn't teach you that. God didn't teach you that. The goddess didn't teach you that. I'm telling you, you have power. I'm telling you guys can make a change. I'm telling you that you guys shouldn't stand back and let these atrocities happen so that people like Dan and the cabal, who's rich, can rip me apart and get rich off of me while you say you can't do anything. This is why they have all the power, because you guys won't stand up united. I'm a fucking leader. I'm a fucking teacher. Okay. I'm a fucking warrior of God. And I came here and I've taught everything. And I tell you, you have power. I proved my credentials. I have the fucking photographs and shit I can't even talk about because it's classified. And you say you don't have any power. You say, what can you do? What can you do? You can open your mouth. You can be heard. You can stand. But nobody wants to. No, you know, you guys, it's so the poor animals. But you let people treat each other horribly.
I can understand where you're coming from.
What's the excuse? Yeah, of course you can. Because it's true.
Well, yeah.
Everything I said is true.
Yeah. Well, it's I would love it if we all stood up all at once. But that's not going to happen.
Why not? Because you say so? Or the cabal says so?
No,
because I say it's going to happen. I say it's going to
Okay.
happen, and it
It
will.
already is happening on a certain level, and I believe that it's possible that extraterrestrials are intervening to assist that process and to assist people that have associations with those extraterrestrials who have the goal of uniting others together in whatever passion it is that they do for themselves. And it's not like, everybody has different cultural upbringings, everybody has different financial situations, everyone has different beliefs and understandings of things.
I just want to
And
backtrack and say I don't blame you personally for what happened to me. Okay, there were many.
I would assume you wouldn't, because it's not my fault.
Well, the phone was blurring until I said that. Now I can hear you, so I had to say it. I couldn't hear you. Now I can.
That's okay.
Plus, it was my choice to teach them. So, whatever.
Okay. I felt the same kind of frustration that you have. I know many people have had that same kind of frustration. Like, why does this have to happen? Of course it doesn't. And that's why many, many, many individuals are standing up. It's just not going to happen overnight. It's 100th monkey effect, and it's happening. 2019 is a year, but we're all, it's a process. It's not, you can't force a lotus flower to open up immediately and be like, oh yeah, kumbaya, everything's okay.
That's right.
It's a process of standing up to those who are in power, and they are following. The Vatican shut down the other day. The Rockefellers and the Rothschilds.
You think the Vatican doesn't know me?
Of course they do. Well, I'm sure that they do.
Yes, they do.
Yeah. And
so listen, basically, there's the 144,000, right? I'm looking for the 144,000. The Thoth is the leader of the 144,000. I'm looking for my warriors. I'm looking for my people.
Well,
I'm telling you, this is what's up.
144,000 was something that was stated by Tuella when she was channeling Ashtar, the Ashtar command. That was, I thought, at least that's where that came from.
Actually, I want 2 billion. I need 2 billion people. I need 2 billion people to stand up. 144,000 angels are already here. So yes, people, you need to unite. What are they going to unite under? They're going to unite behind the one who taught them, and I'm the one who taught them. And that's yes. What do you mean no? I've already explained what I've taught, what I've shown. You have seen my pictures. You know that I'm a leader. I am a leader. I'm also the leader of Legion, or the spokesperson for Legion. So, yeah, people are standing up.
I believe that we're all going to lead ourselves into
oblivion, because look where you've led yourselves now. Look where things are now. You disempowered, the cabal. I mean, nobody has any humility. When I was in massage school, I learned a lot about consciousness, and that led into extraterrestrials, which complicated my life when I was trying to have a normal life and make a normal living, helping other people, because I have back problems and I wanted to help people. So frustrating. It's so frustrating. But for a year, an entire year, I met with a guy who was very well known in the field of massage therapy. He is very respected, very knowledgeable in many things. If he was in this conversation, he would be like Buddha and just be like nodding his head, because he's got his his business, and he can't, not everybody can put everything in the world on hold and take on the entire fucking corrupt world like I do.
Well,
you understand?
I mean, if
somebody, I lead, and if people want to be, but the point is, I met with him every week for 15 months. I did not disagree with him. I was a student. I listened. I had respect. I did not question him. I learned from him. For 15 months, he gave me homework every week. I did what was asked of me. A master, you know, they say Jesus went and studied with the Buddhists or something, or the Essenes, or was in the wilderness. Being lost, you know, not all who wander are lost, you know. I found masters that I studied under. You understand? 15 months. 15
Teresa
months
has a question.
while I went to school. I met with him for 5 hours a week and did 5 hours of homework without questioning him once. And matter of fact, the first time I questioned him is when our mentorship ended. That's the kind of humility that I have shown in my life to get to where I am. You understand?
Teresa has a question for you. Yeah, she's asking you about the 9th circle.
She wants to talk about hell? Really? Oh, the movie or the book? The movie? Depends on your programming. You're tripped.
Yeah. I think without understanding what evil is, we wouldn't, you know, you can't, you gotta experience the bad to understand the good, and vice versa, as above, so below kind of concept. That's duality, isn't it? What happened? He froze. Okay.
What's up? All right. Sorry, I had to take a call.
Oh,
what's up?
The concept that we have to understand good to understand the evil, and vice versa, because as above, so below.
As above, so below is we can cover Thoth in depth in another one. What was the question about the 9th circle? Was that about the book or the movie?
Lisa says you know about the Vatican, and she was asking about the 9th circle. I don't know what she's referring
the
to.
9th circle, child sacrifice, satanic network of assholes. Terrible.
Right. They're just
yeah. They're the kind of people who, you know, encourage you to have abortions and finance, you know, the invasion of your countries and pay for, you know, women who, you know, the women who run the women's marches are paid for by the Vatican, you know, and abortion activists are funded by the Vatican. So the Vatican is ultimately, it's like they want to destroy everything before people figure out that they've corrupted everything. So they do horrible, evil things to gain power. But I assure you, the only power they're going to feel is the wrath of the goddess crushing them and I promise you that they're going to get theirs. They're going to get theirs. I'm telling you, I've already called out the Pope. You know, I told him his days are numbered, you know, and that's just a fact.
Okay.
And the prophecy of the popes by Saint Malachi, are you familiar with that? Funny that my nickname was Malachi, right? The prophecy of the popes was by Saint Malachi. This is the last pope because the Messiah returns and they have to acknowledge it as part of disclosure. So
we're gonna have to end this. We're gonna have to end this soon. I'm gonna in a couple of minutes. So
you should look into the prophecy of the Pope. It's the prophecy of the popes about the last pope by Saint Malachi. Yeah. And Malachi means messenger, human or divine, by the way.
If anybody has any last questions or anything for Jonny, I'm going to go ahead and end this video. And thank you, Jonny, so much for coming on and talking about these things. And there's a lot of theological arguments, and you know, that not everybody sees things the same way.
It takes a long time to get on the same wavelength, you know. You know, the spectrum is amazing.
I don't think anybody. See, the thing is, I don't think everybody has to be on the same wavelength, per se. But I do believe that, you know, and understand that there has to be some kind of uprising to take down the power complex in our society. You know, I mean, it'll eventually happen because the cabal are not going to keep their power forever. I mean, all things come to an end and are reborn like Phoenix from the ashes. So they will fall. They will. And now I believe that people are becoming more and more and more enlightened into their own selves and understanding their part in being connected with that source of love, really, of source of love,
Love and
unconditional
passion.
love.
Well, the
Unconditional love.
divine masculine is the protector, so we need to protect our borders. You know, we need to build that wall and stop the crime. You know, stop the human trafficking, stop the drugs which are killing hundreds of thousands of people in America every year. America's being killed by the Vatican with its, you know, child sacrifice and the abortions, you know, and who do you think's funding? They're telling people in South America that Trump's the devil, and they're sending them this way to fight us. Like they're sending armies towards us. Like that's what's happening.
Yeah,
well,
the political world.
I've studied it, you know. I mean, this is just the truth. You know,
right.
This is what's happening. So yeah, we need an uprising. You know.
Well, I think your daughter is asking for your
She
attention.
Is. She's a good girl.
I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to let you go. Thank you very, very much for coming on. And thank you, everybody, for watching this. I'm going to go ahead and finish this off.